Jesus Enrique Rosas, thank you for coming on to TheSleekest, my friend. It's been great talking to you over the last couple of weeks and getting to know you and what you're doing. And I just wanted to host you on this episode of TheSleekest, and just, I want to share your experience and your knowledge with everyone watching today, including, different entrepreneurs, different people working online, business leaders, and people who are aspiring to be more of themselves, man. I think you're the perfect profile to teach people practical skills in communication, not vocal communication, but body language communication, what you're an expert in.
Thank you, Stefan. Yes, and body language is a really important part of business because everything is about people. And when we're dealing with people, we have to know ourselves. We have to be aware of our body language, and we have to know what is going on with the emotions and intentions of other people, so we can not only get along together, but also do great business together.
Right, exactly. So, Jesus, explain to us, how did you get started in body language, and how do you help people become the best versions of themselves?
Well, I was aware about body language by a video game in when I was a teenager. It was this video game that you had to make a negotiation with a terrorist, and you had options like hassle, pray for help, order, make a question. And at that first time, I thought that it was interesting to have a code that you could combine some variables to unlock a person's behavior. And later on, I studied advertising and marketing, and I was very involved with consumer behavior. And I was figuring out, is there any way I can use body language to know if I'm asking a question to a focus group and be absolutely sure that they're telling the truth? And I started there my formal studies in body language, and I almost left marketing and advertising behind because I entered this realm of nonverbal communication that is so deep that 25 years later, I can say that I'm still finding so many things and trying to try to make it easy to understand how can you take advantage of all this knowledge, of everything that has been researched, of body language in something that businessmen can use.
Right, exactly. And I know from my own experience that, body language plays such a big role in sales and, just practical communications that you have. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was in Toronto a couple months ago, almost a year actually, I was in a meeting with two gentlemen, and you can just tell who was the boss and who was the person working for the boss. Going into that meeting blindly, I didn't meet them ever in person, but right off the bat, there were two partners, but both partners were basically, everyone had their spot. Like, okay, this guy was the decision maker, but this guy knew all the technicalities, so you can kind of tell, who was the boss, like the way people are pointing, how they're speaking, you can even know the eye contact. So let's say, you go ask someone a question and they don't know the answer, but the leader knows the answer. They'll subtly gaze or look towards the leader for that. And that kind of gave me hints, but I mean, I just scratched the surface of what body language is and how to communicate with it. So I know for my own personal success, it's something that I really want to learn and want to get more, more involved into, so explain to us body language in the business world. Why is it important? How can a business person leverage body language?
Well, you have described a situation that is very common, that you enter a room and you have the intuition to know who's the boss, who's in charge, what are the attitudes. And I get a lot of this that, hey, I don't need training in body language. I already know what people are doing or feeling or everything about that. But that is just one part of a three-part, like a triangle. You have to know what people are doing. Very good. Okay. Most people have an intuition, have a hunch of what people are feeling. But also you have to know what is the message that you're projecting at the same time. So you have to be aware of your own body language, and you have to make like a dance, like an empathy dance with them. And that is critical. And the third part of all this persuasion is, how do you use both your knowledge and knowledge of other people to convince them, to persuade them? And that is the most important part. And people sometimes don't get that reading people is the easy part. Controlling ourselves is a little bit harder just to get involved emotionally and build that empathy bridge. And persuasion is the highest level. It's when you are in that connection that you can just suggest things and like plant the idea on the other person's mind, like inception, like you're planting an idea, but you can only do it when you build that the bridge. And that bridge is because you read the person, you control your body language, and make that direct connection.
Right. And there's so many books out there, like for example, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. There's a chapter dedicated completely to just like emotional intelligence, but also body language. And there's this one story I remember, if I remember correctly, there was this guy, he was a young guy, and then he had some sort of accident, and then he was put either into a wheelchair or he was stuck on his bed for a couple of months. And he had
Yes.
a few sisters, and basically he was able to understand just by observing, because he could only use his eyes, just observing his sisters, the way they act between each other. He was able to sense jealousy. He was able to sense resentment, just from like voice tonality and the way they were acting with themselves. And then later in life, he became, I forget what it was. I think he became a psychologist or some sort of,
Yes.
something.
That's Milton Erickson.
Yeah.
He was a hypnotist, a psychiatrist. He was like I'm like the embodiment of body languages. And not only in that book of that Robert Greene book, is also the 12 rules for life from Jordan Peterson. The first rule is stand up with the shoulders like back, like you have to stand up like that. And many people know a few rules about body language, that's good, but so many people just stay in the basics, like trying to learn English and just you learn a few words, you learn a few expressions, you try to get along with what you already know, but you have to keep on practicing, keep on doing it and using it in real life. That is the most important thing. So there are also great books like by Joe Navarro. I love his books. There's also Paul Ekman that is more technical and more towards the face. And I think there's so much information out there that, as usual, you have to read and you have to take what works for you. And that's something that I always tell my students. I try to sort and I try to make a summary of different schools of thought about nonverbal communication. What I felt that in 10 years have worked for me and for my students. But even so, I tell them, I give you these tools, but the idea is that you try them in your real life, because there are so many of them that they're going to be adapt to your own personality. People that are extroverts and people that are introverts. I am an introvert, so I use body language in a different way that an extrovert could do it. So it's also important to understand that knowing the basics and practicing with the basics and adapting it to your own personality is how you get successful with body language in business.
Right. And now let's say you want to be successful in body language in the business realm. How do you use body language to understand influence? So whether you want to influence someone or you're being influenced, like what are some of the signs and tips that you can give someone to understand influence?
Well, it's like a dual strategy. It's not only body language but also verbal. Well, we're gonna focus on the non-verbal or body language part. That
Okay.
you have to make the other person feel that they have the upper hand, and you maybe have read that you have to be an alpha posture. You have to dominate the scene, and that doesn't work that way, because the moment that you try to dominate the scene, you're gonna make everyone feel uncomfortable with you. You want people to feel uncomfortable. And you want people to feel comfortable. You want people to feel smart with you. You want people to feel that they're being listened to. That's very important, because everyone in this era and since a long time, we are being talked to and we're just thinking what we are going to answer. Right? We're not really listening. I'm going to answer this. As soon as he stops talking, I'm going to answer this. No, you have to listen to them. You have to look them in the eye. You have to nod with your head. You have to try to mimic their breathing. If you see that they use certain verbs or adjectives, you use the same verbs or adjectives. If you see that they talk in a certain rhythm, you try to mimic that rhythm. You try to do everything in your toolbox to mimic their their behavior. And when you mimic them, they're gonna like subconsciously understand that you're part of their tribe. And that way you're gonna build trust without saying a single word. So it's as easy as listening, trying to get. And one tip, I think one of the greatest tips about body language and a conversation is try to visualize with colors, with smells, with sounds, everything that that you're listening. So when you visualize with every possible sensation in your head, you make amazing questions, and those amazing questions are what the people, not only you're looking into their eyes, not only you are really interested in what they're saying, but those interested questions is what people are going to understand that they can trust you. And no matter if you have, maybe you are a very tall person and you are have an imposing frame and you walk with your shoulders back, but you have to project warmth. It's always about warmth. If there are occasions in business where you have to be a little more aggressive or hold your ground, I think those are the few times, because business is agreement. Let's go to an agreement. And negotiation, for example, negotiation is, and we were talking about a meeting up to this point, but in a negotiation, it's important that the other party like invests all their energy, invest all that they have to say, invest all that they have to demand, and you have to be open for that without any emotion at all. And not, and I want to know, what do you want from this negotiation? And I'm not saying that you're gonna do this to give in to that negotiation. No, you have to listen and let them talk, because there's another trick. Like you may say, you might think it's a dirty trick, but the more a person talks, the more energy they are spending on the and that in that interchange of information. The more energy they spend, the more energy you are accumulating. And listening is a process where you accumulate energy, and at the same time you're listening to what do they care about, because they are raising their tone of voice when they talk, when they say something that they deeply care about.
Yeah.
They lower the voice tone when they're not sure about what they're saying, and you have to spot that and remember that. And you have to make them feel listen, but at the same time you are letting them drain their energy, right? And in negotiation we have to think that, as we always are looking for the upper hand, but the upper hand is not like playing an alpha male, an aggressive alpha male. It's on the contrary, you let them spend their energy, and then you try to make them think in the end that the arrangement, that of course, uh, it's a very personal point of view, and negotiation shouldn't be splitting the difference or win-win. I don't think that. I think that you should be joining a negotiation thinking that you should have the upper hand, because that's what benefits you as a business owner, as a leader of a company. If not, there will be no negotiations. You just, the other party just says 5, I say 10, and we split the difference, and there will be no negotiation. So it's like a battlefield, like a chess, where you let them spend the energy, and then you figure out the way how can you take advantage of that energy expenditure.
Got it. Interesting. Very, very interesting take on the whole energy aspect, because, like, for example, you'll have outside of business, you'll have a man and a woman, right? There is an exchange of energies happening. So let's say a guy is pursuing a girl, or a girl is pursuing a guy, whatever. You can kind of tell who has the power based on, different body language, voice tonality, and the amount of effort they're putting through. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. You probably know this better than me, but is it true that whoever puts in the most energy wants it more?
It's like like you put the more energy. It's like you shouldn't spend so much energy talking and try to make the other party um, talk instead of you talking, because you want to know what do they need, what are their needs, or what they are looking for. And
Right.
you have to the upper hand is making the other party talk. The one that talks the less usually wins, because has the more energy accumulated on a conversation or a negotiation. And of course, you don't only accumulate that energy, but have to channel it by questions that some questions will gonna let them a little slack, a little line, like when you're fishing, you're letting a little line loose, all right? And some questions you're gonna say, hey, I don't know what you think about this, but you're gonna like pull the line a bit, and you will be pulling and pulling and pulling until they realize that they have spent all their energy, and you're there smiling like, hey, I think we get an arrangement, and they will be like, what just happened? All right. That's what you want to know. That's what you want to do. I know that for many books, for many blog posts, they say, hey, you have to have a win-win situation. No, but the most important thing for your company and you as a business owner is that you have to understand how to reel that energy, how to manage that energy, so you can have the upper hand in every negotiation.
Interesting. Very interesting lesson that is, because it's something that I had no idea even exists. So let's say, where do I even start to learn about that? Like just that kind of energy. Because one, you can give energy through vocal. Two, you can give energy through, your movements, your body language, all that. So is the power of influence in energy management and taking someone's energy and giving energy? Is that how, on the grand scheme of things, how it works?
In that part, negotiation, body language, influence takes a lot from physics, and that you don't only have a vector of energy, or like an amount of energy, but you have a direction. What is anyone wants to win the negotiation from the start, but you don't know which direction is the negotiation going to take, and you first want the other party to lead, to say what is their direction, so you can paraphrase or you can adapt what you're going to offer, like in that same direction. You're not opposing them, but you're putting your offer like in front of what they are already wanting. Okay, it's like a way of disguising what you're offering as what is in the best interest of the other party. Because if you think of the negotiation, I think it's more like it's less kung fu and more aikido. It's like letting them show their energy and do not block that energy, but use that energy to show them and project them to where you want them to be. How do you that in terms of body language? You always have a neutral and a slight smile on your face. You nod. You want there to know about them. If there's any question you can make about them, hey, I like that pen you have. I have a similar pen. If you have if you are negotiation in like an office on a person that you see that they like sailing, and you know something about sailing, you try to make like build that trust, build that bridge of trust. And that the great thing about that is that they see you as someone that they can trust. But your real agenda is they want something and you want something. You don't want to split the difference. You don't want that. And there is a strategy, that very good strategy, that you have to stimulate the no. But beyond the no, the real negotiation starts. But all your body language will be cooperative, like not crossing your arms over your chest, trying to make your hands relax, trying to look into their eyes. And when they stop talking, they you should invite them and say, is that all you have to say? Are you sure there's anything else that you want to tell me? Like, you are there to help them, but in fact, you are there to help yourself to win the negotiation. But that is the magic that your body language must project. Your body language must say that you're there for the benefit of all. With, in fact, it's not completely true. You're there for the benefit of you and your company. So that's like the play of energy. Like, they want to go somewhere, and you have to put your solution in front of where they want to go.
Right.
It's a concept. It's a general concept, of course. Every negotiation is different. I love negotiations. It's like that's the best playground for body language, because there's so much stake. There's so much that you can tell from people. There's so much that you can learn from human behavior, and really is something that it has a lot of passion for everyone.
Right, absolutely, man. So the key lesson I took from that is always have a warm and friendly, approachable, neutral face, but with a little bit of a smile. Be welcoming, be cooperative. Yeah, you're working your interests too, but you're also working with their interests to help each other out, right? So always be proactive about just cooperating. And that's what I got from that lesson.
Yes, and try to not force it. Everyone has like let's say face configurations. Like some people have a natural smile. Some people have a natural like a face that is not so smiley. So you have to play with your own features. So that's why it's important that negotiations are not done alone, but with a party. Like two or three that like you pick two or three people that complement each other in emotions, in features, in attitude. It's a little like that bad cop, good cop routine that you can use in negotiations, but you have to play with it.
Right.
It's like a dance. That's why I tell you, when I've been coach in negotiation, it's like every scenario is different. And now, when I have had the opportunity to be in a negotiation table with all the like secret codes, like I grab my collar, I'm telling my own party what they should do. I show some numbers and one paper, like it's a total mistake, but those numbers in that paper over the table, are done in purpose. All that strategy, it's non-verbal, and it's everything like it's like a mind game that you're playing with the other party. Because I insist, if negotiations were rational, then we will split the difference all the time. You say an amount, I say an amount, and we just go for the middle, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, talking about splitting the difference. Have you read the book by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference?
Yes, that's amazing book.
It's good.
It's a must read book for every business people.
Yeah, it's very good. And I like the way, because he is a former FBI negotiator, and the way he explains just everything in that book, everything is so practical. It's not too stuck up in theory or too stuck up in theories of different people and what to do in the situation. It's actual practical advice from his experience. And that's why I like that book so much. So how would you apply elements from, laws of human nature, never split the difference, your own experience in the business world today? Let's say, for example, I'm working remotely, how we're having this call now over Google Meet. Let's say now business leaders all around the world, because of COVID-19, how are people and how do you think people should be interacting with their body language like this on Zoom or on Google Meets? How do you control influence that way?
Well, one of the things I did, for example, in this interview is try not to get too close to the camera, because getting too close to the camera is like it's an invasion of someone's privacy, and also it distorts the shape of your face, and you don't want your face distorted. It's always important to have a slight space over your face, over your head. It's important because that breathing space was what makes you look natural. A good audio, high contrast. Like I have this contrast of my face. I usually try to dress and in a dark tones, and my background is dark, so my face, it's very easy to read my face in this setup, right? And I use a custom illumination. It's that's in the part of the setup. Most people think that it's just turning off the camera and turning on the camera. And I at this time I make really sure that the camera is going straight into my face. That
Right.
it's not like this. For example, if I do this, it's like I talking to you downwards, like I'm
Yeah, yeah,
higher than you, right. I'm your boss, right.
yeah.
And of course, this this is the opposite. This it should be too, like you're up and I'm down. So you have to always try to use a neutral angle on the conversation. So no matter if you're the leader and if you're the boss, you have to remember that people are stressed, people suffer anxiety, people suffer that maybe they are a little anxious of so many days if they are in quarantine. So you have to make them feel this way, that you're on the same level, we're on the same team, doing we're going through the same struggles. And besides that, it's important that you stand a bit further from the camera, so as you can say that it's easy for you to look at my hands. Okay.
Right.
I've seen, and this is a classic mistake. Maybe you're looking at me straight in the face, but if I do this, I'm hiding my hands, and maybe I use them, but you don't see them. And if when you don't see the hands of someone, it doesn't inspire as much
So Jesus,
trust as.
how far back from your laptop are you right now? You're
Excuse
about
me.
what? How far away are you from your laptop screen from your webcam?
Well, I'm like 50 centimeters now. I don't know in inches. It will be like 20 inches.
20 inches.
You're
Yeah,
like 20.
I'm about
Yeah,
like
you
my whole.
you, you can you can see you can see, like, it's what I don't know what it's called in cinematography. I think it was called like an American frame, where you
Okay.
can see my solar plexus, and you have it's like your frame. Your frame is very good too, but it's important that people see your hands, right? And one thing I want to make sure that people that listening to our interview, please don't do this. That is talking like this step all the time. You look like a politician. I don't know where they did get that. And they spend like 15, 20 minutes with the hands stuck together, like they have crazy glue with the fingers.
Your little.
The stipple is good for emphasizing one point.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. You unstuck your fingers and try to talk like it's no big deal. Don't try to control. I made big mistakes in the past, many years ago, when I like suggested that you have to control and you have to make these kinds of gestures before
Yeah.
treating what is inside the person. What do you want to communicate? Because usually when you know what you want to communicate, the action that you want to inspire in the person that you have at the other side of the camera, is much easier to use your hands in a natural way. And maybe, of course, if you are in a TED talk or are doing a speech for your company, you want some baton gestures, like the pinch, like a fist, like the two hands symmetrical, that are resources that only it can only work well when you know what you want to express, the action that you want to inspire in people.
Right. Interesting, man. It's just there's so much knowledge here. I don't know where to start. It's just like my biggest takeaway was just the energy management, and basically when you're speaking to someone or someone's trying to influence you, how to actually measure their energy. I think that right there is a key, and applying that remotely, just how most businesses are working now. I think that right there, man, is like, it's something that people should double down on and start learning more about that, because the reality is like, I don't know any people right now that worked in my industry that actually went back to physical work without, without having 30% work capacity and the building not even being full. So I think now, because like people are doing more and more remote work, now is the actual opportune time to actually go and learn body language, So where can people find you, man? Like how can you help more people, like, like how we had in this call, but more in depth?
Well, of course, I got my brand that is Kinesics, but it's easier if you go to bodylanguage.pro and you'll go directly to my page. And there we have the training. We have a free book of tips for body language and persuasion to get started. If you want coaching, can contact me directly from that page. And of course, the main idea is to be able to like plant an idea in the other person's mind, like the action that you want to do. If you're doing a TED talk, if you're in a negotiation, if you're motivating your employees, you want all kind of people to have an idea planted in their minds. Like, it's not your idea, it's not an order, it's not something that you're like forcing into them. Instead something that is just sparking inside their heads. That's the most magical things that happens through trust built with body language.
Right. And so actually I saw something on your Twitter that was very interesting. You have this this sort of AI that measures basically facial expressions. And I think that's cool as fuck, man. Like the way you have like a tool and the way you explain a story. Talk to me a little bit more about that, man. Like, what is that tool, and how do you use it?
Well, I always have been told. I once was challenged by someone that I was very I was very angry at the moment, but now I thank that person because they told me, hey, your business is really cool, but you cannot scale body language because body language has to be read by one person, one specialist. And I thought to myself, it was many years ago, there has to be a way to scale like body language reading. And we already have facial recognition at that moment, but I didn't have access. I wanted to do it my way because it's not only the face, it's the voice, it's the words that you use, it's the way that you walk. And I decided that I had to develop software, and not myself. I don't develop the software, but I had this project in mind. I've found the right people. I found the right engineers. They're right now in Ukraine, and we have developed a module that can read like voice stress, that can read people's facial expressions, that can make compare what they are doing, what they're expressing with their faces. We have been really successful in the part with recruiting, when you have like a profile that you want to meet, and you know that some people in the company are already successful in those like in those jobs, and you want to find people that are similar to those people that already are in the company. And it works really well because you know that in a body language sense, you can spot when someone is agreeable, when someone is going to be prone to teamwork, when someone is not going to be like conflicting. And of course, it also needs some human supervision, but it's the first step to have an artificial intelligence that can help companies like have a culture, a tribe that is really tight, because you really get to know the people that work for you.
Right. Interesting, man. What's that tool called?
Excuse me?
What's the tool called that you made?
The tool is called Moz. I originally had I designed an assistant, an artificial intelligence assistant that I just called like most awesome assistant, and I just the name stuck, and I just call that most that way, and we just call that most, like you're most awesome, and I think it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah, love it, man. Great. Jesus, it was great having you on this podcast, man. I learned a lot, like I always do when I talk to you, man. And I'll be sure to, follow up with you, and maybe we can have a second version of this podcast as comments start coming in and people want to, get some more, learn more about body language.
Yes, there's so much to talk. There's so many. We can talk deeper into negotiation. We can talk deeper into sales. We didn't talk anything about sales and body language of sales. It's a perfect topic for a second episode. So the sky's the limit.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you again.
Thank you, Stefan.